a life driven by desire. Brian lived for the thrill. Money, parties, and fleeting pleasures consumed him. He scoffed at faith. His mother's pleas to attend church fell on deaf ears. "It's all a sham," he'd say, dismissing her concerns. Brian believed happiness resided in material possessions and worldly experiences. He chased them relentlessly, pushing aside any thoughts of a higher purpose. One chilly December evening, the 25-year-old Brian found himself driving home after a particularly wild night. The music blared, mirroring the chaos in his soul. As he sped down a deserted highway, a thick fog rolled in, enveloping his car in an eerie silence. The air grew heavy, pressing down on him like an unseen force. He could barely see a few feet ahead. The darkness outside mirrored the emptiness within him. It was in this moment of vulnerability, as the fog tightened its grip, that Brian felt a shiver run down his spine. He wasn't alone. He slowed down, his heart pounding. Through the dense fog, a figure emerged, tall and shrouded in shadow. It stood motionless in the middle of the road. Brian slammed the brakes, the car screeching to a halt. Fear, cold and paralyzing, gripped him. He couldn't make out the figure's face, only its piercing eyes that seemed to burn through the fog. A million thoughts raced through Brian's mind. Was it a nightmare? A hallucination? He wanted to run, to escape, but something held him captive. The figure moved closer. With every step, the temperature seemed to drop. Fear turned into terror. Brian closed his eyes shut, unable to bear the sight of the approaching figure. He had nowhere to go, no one to call for help. In that moment of utter helplessness, a long-forgotten memory flickered in Brian's mind. His mother's soft voice reciting the Lord's Prayer. He'd always mocked it, but now he clung to it as a lifeline. "Our Father, who art in heaven," he whispered, the words feeling alien yet strangely comforting. He opened his eyes. The figure was gone. The fog began to dissipate, the moonlight breaking through the darkness. For the first time in his life, Brian felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. The fear that had been his constant companion was gone, replaced by something he couldn't quite comprehend. He sat there for a long time, the silence no longer deafening but strangely soothing. As he looked around, he noticed something on the passenger seat. It was a book. His heart skipped a beat. It was a Bible, his mother's Bible. He'd thrown it in the back seat weeks ago, a symbol of his disdain for her beliefs. Picking it up, he felt a strange warmth radiating from its worn leather cover. A small, folded piece of paper fell out. It was a note from his mother. "My dear Brian," it read, "I know you don't understand now, but I pray that one day you will find your way back to him. He loves you unconditionally." Tears welled up in Brian's eyes. He had never felt so lost and yet so found. That night, Brian finally understood the emptiness he had been trying to fill. He started attending church, finding solace in the words he had once rejected. The encounter on the foggy road had been his wake-up call, a terrifying yet life-changing experience that led him to his faith and a life filled with purpose he had never known.